Today, I want to talk to you about 6 very short classic books that you will love, that you will get a lot from. And the reason I'm bringing these books up because I feel like these are books that I've talked about previously, but I really want to get you guys into the classics because the classics are so fun to read. I feel like they're classics for a reason. They transcend their time period. They transcend and talk about something that is much deeper in human nature. And I think it's much easier to gain insights from books that are outside of our times because, think if you read a book that's about the political sphere today, you're going to very much bias it by your own understanding, by your own opinions. And when we can remove ourselves from the situation, then we can learn the most. And this is really what you can do through the classics. And this is what I urge you to do. And I really urge you to pick these books up. So the first one is Notes from the Underground. I first wanted to include White Nights. I think White Nights is a really, really good short story by Dostoevsky, but I think this captures Dostoevsky's essence in a much better way, in a much more concise way. White Nights is really like a failed love story that in some way is inspiring, in some way is depressing, and it's a very weird tale, and you're very weirdly satisfied at the end of it. And if I spoiled the plot, you'd be like, what is this? But the reason I chose this was because the first 40 pages of this book is really Dostoevsky's criticism of nihilism, criticism of existentialism, and the idea that people become wicked if they don't have a sense of purpose. The idea that people will try to take out their anger and hatred towards others if they aren't given the right means, if they don't direct their energy and their purpose into more positive things. And this is really what the whole book is about. The whole book is about a man who he's known as the Underground Man. I don't think he's ever given a name, but basically the Underground Man is a despicable individual who tries to make other people's lives worse. And the whole series of events follows this story, this tale. It's only about, I think it says 140 pages, and through the course of this, you'll get a very good insight into Dostoevsky. I think Dostoevsky is one of the most interesting writers that has ever existed, and I think if you can get into his style and start to appreciate it, then you can more easily approach works such as Crime and Punishment that are 600, 700, 800 pages. And I think it's a really good place to start. I think if it's the only thing you read by Dostoevsky, you have a pretty solid basis of his work, and you don't have to spend hundreds and hundreds of pages trying to decipher exactly what this great mad genius was trying to tell you. So the next book I wanted to include was The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. So this is one of the only works that was ever published during Kafka's life. It really didn't get any recognition, and it was only after his death that this book became extremely, extremely, extremely well-selling. And I think this is probably his best-selling work simply because it's the shortest, simply because it's the most renowned in terms of a Kafka-esque story. And I really urge you to pick this up because it's very insightful in the sense that it could either be a profound allegory for our diminished capacity and do people actually love us for who we are, or do they love us for what we can do for them? But it's also just a horrific tale of a man that turns into a human beetle hybrid, and his story on how his family adapts and how people change viewing him. So that's really the thing about Kafka. You could take it as a very insightful story about human nature, or almost a Stephen King novel. And I really urge you to pick this up because I feel like if you read this, you're going to want to read more Kafka. It's very easy, very quick read, and very surprisingly inspiring in a sense. But with that said, we'll get into the next book. The next book is The Alchemist. This is a book that I feel like everyone should read. I feel like everyone can take something away from this. And the general consensus of the book is that you already have what you're looking for. You're just not looking for it in the right place. As Lao Tzu said, those who go out to seek are already far away from the solution, are already far away from the answer. And it's a book that will inspire you in a way that I can't really explain. It's something you kind of have to experience for yourself, but it's about finding yourself in a world where you're lost, finding yourself in a world where you don't feel like you have purpose, and finding out that what you set out to do is oftentimes what you is not the end goal, is not where you end up being, and finding solace in this fact, finding solace in the fact, in living life and experiencing what life has to offer, good, bad, and indifferent, and accepting the trials and tribulations, and seeing them as developing you into the person that you need to be to become who it is that you want to be. With that said, we'll get into the next book, but this is really, really a very short read, a very fast read, and it's one of the most well-selling books, I would say, in terms of amount of copies. I think it's like 500 million copies. It's sold something insane like that. And if that doesn't urge you to pick it up, I don't know what else will. But great book. If I'm going to suggest one book you read on this list, it's that one, because I think the most people will love this book out of all the books I suggested. All the books are really, really good, but I think The Alchemist is the most universally liked of all the books I've suggested. The next one is The Stranger by Albert Camus. Camus is probably my top 5 favorite philosophers, and The Stranger is a very interesting book because it's about a man who lives an absurdist lifestyle. He sees the faultiness in most people's perspectives. He sees through the cracks and the weirdness of social norms, but he can't quite find it in himself to fit in. And it follows a series of events that leads him to be put on trial and eventually accept his fate and eventually accept his fate as an absurdist man. And it really is a great work. It's something that I didn't realize I read in high school, but then reading it again, I'm like, wait, why do I remember this? And I remember not understanding it when I was in high school, but understanding it after the fact and understanding the deep philosophical interpretations and the deep philosophical insights that Camus offers. And I think Camus is someone that you should expose yourself to because his stories are amazing, his philosophy is amazing, and I think he's someone that you can find a lot of insight in. A lot of existentialists I don't think have anything to offer. I don't think they say anything clever. I don't think they say anything interesting, but Camus, even though he wasn't an existentialist, he's existentialist adjacent, and I think he has something to tell you. I think he has something to offer you, and great book, very short, very interesting, and it will get you questioning what it means to be an individual, what it means to be on trial, what it means to be guilty, and yeah, that's really all I got to say for this book. Let's get into the next one. The next one is Dubliners by James Joyce. This is really the easiest thing to read by James Joyce. It's still complex, I'm not gonna lie, it's still somewhat difficult, it's still somewhat symbolic, but if you've ever heard of James Joyce and you wanted to pick him up, I urge you to pick this one up first because Ulysses is impossible to read. Ulysses is a book that if you read 100 times, you won't understand. There's so many nuggets in it, there's so many references in it, there's literally so many different things going on that you can never comprehend the whole picture of it. And this is very different. This is very straightforward stories that are poetic, that are satisfying, that are tragic, that really capture the essence of an everyday Dubliner, and that's really James Joyce's style. James Joyce thought it was much more interesting to analyze the lives of individuals instead of the lives of princes and knights and kings and all of these people that, you know, really exist in an idealized world. He liked telling stories of real everyday people, and it is really well captured in this. There's a story where this man basically, his wife tells him a story of how this guy waited outside all night for her, got sick, and basically passed away as a result. And you would think the story would end here, but it's basically the husband sitting in bed looking at his wife and understanding that what he thinks his wife to be is not really quite the truth. And there's so many different layers to humanity. There's so many different layers to relationships. There's so many different layers to even how we view our spouses. And it's like, it's such a profound statement. It's such a profound realization in so few pages, and that's really only something James Joyce can recapture. And I think there's a certain element, there's a certain artistry to this book, and it really captures human nature unlike any other author that I've read. I think if you understand Jungian psychology and you read James Joyce, you're like, wow, this guy knew something that most people can only perceive through years and years and years of clinical research and clinical studies, and this guy just kind of knew it out of intuition, and he was able to portray this in a story. That's really the artistry of James Joyce, is that he could perfectly encapsulate an entire human experience in so few words, and he could make it seem like you were actually living as this person. And if that didn't inspire you to pick up this book, I don't know what will. But it's a very short book. It's about 15 short stories in, like, I think it's 150 pages, something along that. I'm not sure if there's introduction in the beginning, but very short read, very interesting read. The stories are very amazing, and I think if you've ever wanted to pick up James Joyce, this is the place to start. The last book I have for you guys is, of course, The Prophet by Kahlil Gibran. This is one of my favorite books I've ever read. It's one of the most insightful books I've ever read. It's one of the most poetic books I've ever read. It's just that good. And this is a book that, if you read it, will forever stay with you. If you read this book, this is something that will forever impact you and forever impact the way you see the world. A quote that I constantly bring up from this book is, "Every sorrow deepens your joy. Every time you experience pain, it allows you to experience pleasure. Every time something bad happens, it means that you can appreciate the good that much more." And Gibran just somehow perfectly encapsulates things that you've always understood, yet you've never been able to put into words. It's very much like Emerson in that sense. It's very much like Rumi in that sense. And it's a mix of poetry, it's a mix of storytelling. The basic premise of the book is that this prophet is leaving his city and he's giving advice one last time. And there are a series of questions that are asked to him, and he answers them in a profound way. And throughout the course of this book, you feel like you're reading something that is touching your soul, not just touching your mind, not just stimulating your mind. In some way, it's making you a different person. In some way, it's elevating you, making you a better person. And I think if you've never read The Prophet, it's something you should really pick up. With that said, those are all the books I got for you guys today. I will try to link them, but I'll probably be lazy and I won't do it. But please, 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 I urge you to pick up any, if not all, of these books. Let me know if you want me to make similar videos to this. I think this is a fun thing to start doing, a fun format to start doing, like different categories for different styles of things that you want to read, and my explanation why you should read them, my takes on it. That said, love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Peace out. I'll catch you in the next one.